Receptor's amazing. He runs a radio show in the UK. Hello and welcome to CLX Foundry Live. I'm DJ BluePDX, and we are here with another amazing build today. You're just joining us. This is the thing we do. With me right now is our lead technical expert. It is Paul Steffens, and our master builder, Christian Garrett. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Good, awesome. I was commenting on the fact that I saw my friend Receptor in the chat, which is great. Good friend. So we've got a project for Trenton in Texas, and we have a first on our show.
That's right.
Because
yeah.
I don't think we've actually done a live solid AMD build at all yet.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. We've definitely got the Team Red build going on.
Yeah, we do.
So pretty excited about that.
Yeah, so let's take a look and see what's going to go inside this beast, because this is a pretty powerful PC. Granted, I'm not super familiar with the Radeons, but I've heard that, so I'm going to have a lot of questions throughout the show. But first, let's take a look at what goes inside.
Alrighty, so we'll just go through the parts like normal. Sorry, I'm adjusting my mic right now. We'll go through the parts like normal, and then we'll get started on the build. So, starting out, we've got a Ryzen 7 7700X. This is the new generation of Ryzen CPUs, so it's cool to see that. Very distinguishable from the heat spreader on it. Cool. We've got a Phanteks Glacier 360. I believe we used one of these last week. We really like this liquid cooler.
Fun.
And our motherboard for this build is an ASRock X670E Steel Legend.
Ooh, those are good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of options. In fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that has the dual Ethernets on it.
I believe so, yeah. The memory that we're going to be using for this order, we've got a total of 16 gigs. We've got two 8-gig sticks of DDR5-5200.
Okay.
And for our storage on this, we've got a 2 terabyte M.2 NVMe Seagate drive, a Firecuda, and we've also got a Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte hard drive.
You said a Firecuda and a Barracuda?
Yep.
Okay, I'll have questions later on in the show for that.
Our video card, this is the first on the show. We've got an XFX Radeon 6900 XT.
Sweet. Thank you, Silent.
And for our power supply, we've got a Thermaltake 850 watt 80 plus bronze. This is fully modular and is RGB.
Heck yeah. That'll be great.
Yeah, this one will look cool. I don't know if we've done a Thermaltake power supply in this. I really like the look of them.
Yeah.
For our case fans, we've got 7 of our RGB fans. And for our case, we've got a Leon Lee 011 XL with our raw print design on here.
Nice. These are gorgeous cases.
Yeah, we love this one. It's been a bit since we've done a raw, I think. So good
Yeah.
to see that again.
And the cases look amazing when they're lit up from the inside, because it just really accents that incredible flame, and the designs on there. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna pop. Excuse us for technical difficulty. And then we will get the panels off and start building the board, and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good. So I'm super excited. Well, I'll let you guys get your mics fixed. I'm super excited to talk about a little what's going on that motherboard first. I know that's going to be a Christian thing, but at the same time, so you have. I didn't realize that Seagate was all about the Barracuda, Firecuda, whatever Cudas. So the Firecudas, are there M.2s? Yes?
Yes, they are. Now, I believe you can still get a Barracuda M.2 and possibly a Firecuda 2.5 inch. For me, that designation is like a higher performance one. So a Firecuda is going to be like a higher end version of the Barracuda. I'm sure there are some technical specs to show that, but that's what I think of in my mind. Barracuda is kind of baseline Seagate, with Firecuda being better than the Barracuda.
Gotcha. Well, it does look amazing, that's for sure. And it's going to go well underneath some incredible, and I mean absolutely incredible plating on this. The let's talk about this motherboard real fast. This is an ASRock, as you mentioned, X670E Steel Legend. This thing's all sorts of decked out. You've got 4 DDR5 DIMMs. Obviously, we're gonna be using 2 of those for the DDR5 RAM. We've got, but it supports up to 6600 plus OC. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, that's really fast. I haven't seen RAM that fast in like yet. I forget. I think we might have done a 6200 maybe. I'm not sure.
Interesting. So let's talk about the PCI slots. How many does it have, and what are we looking at for its functionality?
Yeah, so we've got 2 PCIe by 16 slots, with the top one being reinforced, and then a PCIe by 1. They're closer to the bottom of the board.
And did you already get? I don't know if. I lost cam on you guys, but I don't know if you already put that processor in there, Christian. Is Christian's mic on? Let's go with and start with that.
Hello, check.
Perfect. I can hear you. Yes.
All right.
So I wanted to point out, because you can see it in this perspective, top down. It is a very different way that the AMD processors sit on the receptacle, compared to Intel.
Well, it's a lot similar to Intel's.
Now it is a lot similar, yeah.
So, because it looks very different. Obviously, it's a different processor. What are some of the advantages of that kind of connectivity between the motherboard and the CPU?
So AMD went with a land grid array with their pins. So the pins are on the motherboard socket. They're not on the CPU.
Right.
So you have less chance of messing up your CPU, but more of a chance of messing up your motherboard. So
it's a trade-off for sure.
Yeah.
Your processor can survive a fall, maybe.
Awesome.
But yeah, those pins are very fragile, so be very careful.
Yeah, I've fixed pins on a CPU before, like before AMD went this way, and I'm pretty confident in my ability to fix the pins on a CPU. But when you're fixing the pins on a motherboard, that's some next level stuff.
True. That's a good point.
Yeah, it can be done, but it's so scary because the pins on the motherboard aren't just straight up making contact. They're at an angle, and then they have a little arm that's kind of curved or hooked at the end. So when the processor clamps down onto the socket, it's pushing down into those pins. So the way with them being at the angle, they're kind of hard to fix. It's not just like straighten them up and you're good. Whereas back with the old AMD CPUs, you just had to make sure they were all straight. So it was a lot easier to fix.
Interesting. So as far as the board goes, we've got multiple different M.2 slots with a lot of really, I would say, very well designed heat sinks. We've got a blazing M.2, 3 hyper M.2s, then of course we've got 4 SATA 3s. There's also a huge number of USB ports. Let's talk about that. How many are there on this board?
Yeah, so let me see. I'll spin this around real quick so you can see. It looks like we've got 12 on here just on the back, one of those being a Type-C. And then this case obviously has 4 more regular USBs and then a Type-C on the front as well. So all the USB ports.
Nice. Perfect. Which is always great, especially for content creators and gamers, because we are forever needing to plug, all sorts of different peripherals in order to make our streams work, in order to, get the best response for gaming. So this is a good one. It also includes Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So we've got Wi-Fi 6E, which is wild. That's the most advanced Wi-Fi you can get, and it's exceedingly quick and powerful. So while we're talking about network connectivity, let's talk about both of those Ethernet ports, which I'm always finding interesting. We've got a Dragon port. It's a 2.5 gigabyte networking port, and then a Realtek 1 gig networking port. What are some of the use cases for having that in there?
Yeah, so obviously if you're just going to be using one on this board, if the customer's just using one of those, you obviously use the 2.5. You get faster speeds, less lag that way. But having two on here allows you to do a lot of things. So back in the day, like way long ago, you could run like two Ethernet, like two cable internet lines to your house if you wanted to pay for that. I don't think that's really a thing anymore since speeds are so much faster now. So a more practical use for having two of them would be if you had like a home network that you wanted to set up, you could plug these in. You could plug a computer in, another PC into it, a printer, something like that, and make your home network that was offline. So I know a lot of people like it for that reason.
I mean, you could even do like if you wanted that real quick signal, since it's a 1 gig port, you could actually have a streaming setup in another area that's remote and then connect it via Ethernet for your data.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which could actually be, that's probably going to be faster than some USBs, or at least able to transmit over longer distances, which is a whole different story. That's a different question. I was going to ask, well, I'll just ask anyways, and if it's something you know, great. As far as data distances, when you're doing something like that using one of these advanced boards, is it better, do you think, to utilize data throughput on your Ethernet, or do you think it's more reliable to use it on a really, really long USB cable?
Definitely Ethernet, I would say. Yeah. With the longer USB, you know, you get some some data loss there. I mean, that's the same with any cable, but I like using the Ethernet if I'm going to do that.
Cool. Well, this board sounds like it's already set up for it. Christian, let's talk about those heat sinks. This board has a bunch of them. What are we looking at here?
Let's see. So you got your M.2 heat sink. You got two M.2 heat sinks right here. Some beefy heat sinks. Got a North Bridge, South Bridge over here. Just a lot of heat sinks. Real quality board over here. Looking real good.
And just for those people who aren't really aware of why heat sinks are important on the motherboard, let's tell them what they do.
Yeah, so the components under them get hot, obviously, when they're running, and so those heat sinks allow that heat to get soaked up into that metal, and then there's fins on each side all over those heat sinks that allow air to flow through the fins and take the heat away. Same concept as a radiator, except there's no fluid in there. If you didn't have the heat sinks, the heat would obviously just, you know, passively come off of it and then get blown away by your case fans. But having the heat sinks really enables it to stay cool a lot better.
Speaking of things that are assistive, this also comes with a graphics card holder, which is designed to assist and prevent graphics sag. Is that what you're calling it? Card sag?
GPU sag, graphics card
there
sag,
we go.
All that, yeah. Any of
and
those
how does that
words.
work with something like this?
Yeah, so what we've been seeing with a lot of cards, with the size increasing on them, is once you get them installed into the case, if you've got a really long card that has a heavy heatsink on it, you'll see it kind of sag on the end that it doesn't have the screws into the case. And so that can, over time, that can obviously cause damage to your motherboard, to that PCIe slot, and if that goes bad, then if you don't have another slot, you know, you'll obviously need a new board. So preventing that sag allows it to just be more stable in there and prevent damage to the motherboard.
I assume that also adds to the longevity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Now, obviously we're getting everything set for including the AIO, and we'll talk about that in a second. Any specific advice when it comes to attaching brackets? Your mounting brackets for the AIO onto a board like this?
Nothing too crazy. These AIOs come with brackets for all of the CPU sockets, so you just want to make sure you have the right one. But obviously, you know, it won't work if you're using the wrong one, so kind of foolproof there.
Which is perfect.
Yep, yeah, it's nice.
It does have an SPS Dr. CMOS on it, or a Dr. MOS for it, and it says it has server-grade low-loss PCB. Now, I know the PCB is the board that it's actually built on, but what does it mean by server-grade low-loss?
Yeah, so in server systems, they use a higher-grade PCB and higher-grade components on those, since servers can be used for a lot of things like hospitals, running you know, equipment like that, stuff that needs to stay running. So that just means they're using higher end PCB for this board, so that'll make it more stable.
Oh my! Sorry.
You're good. That'll make everything more stable, and Yeah, it just lasts longer.
Yes, I'm that guy who accidentally forgot to turn his mute his phone. Congratulations, DJ, you're special. All right then. Now it's completely off. Awesome. Yeah, because I've never actually seen that description before.
Yeah, it's
with
kind of
regards
hard
to
see, like,
PCBs.
visually. So, you know, visually it's going to look the same. I'm sure if you got out like a micrometer or something, you know, it might be a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it does mention that it has DDR5 Expo and XMP support. Both references I've never heard of. I mean, DDR5 obviously that's the RAM, generation of RAM, but it says Expo and XMP support.
Yeah, so that's going to refer to your memory profile.
Okay.
That's like the speed of your system. So like when we, you know, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but when we get this system into testing, when we set the BIOS, that's where we make sure that the memory speed is correct using those XMP, which is a memory profile. So like we're using, I believe we're using what, 5200 speed RAM on this. So if we wanted to, we could downclock it, and some RAM, when you install it, it will automatically go to a lower speed, and then you have to set that memory profile in the BIOS.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
back in the day, I mean, it was always going to downclock to the lowest speed, and then you had to set that in the BIOS. Nowadays, it's, I mean, a lot of the times that I'm seeing it, the BIOS is automatically detecting that it can be faster and setting that profile to what it can. We still
Now,
check
it
it
does-
every time, though.
Nice. One thing that this motherboard does come with is a blazing overclock tuner. I'm assuming that's a custom designed overclock precision boost overdrive for the CPU that's included with the board.
Right, yeah. So that'll be when you boot into the BIOS, when you're, that's like a kind of like a separate tool or like a separate program almost in the BIOS to help you overclock it.
Got it. Perfect. Yeah, it mentions that you can actually have single-threaded performance or multi-threaded performance enhancements with it, which is definitely different. I've not heard about that. It's very detailed. It's a lot more detail than I'm used to.
Yeah, yeah. It's the amount of detail that can go into overclocking a system and just being able to overclock a single core or all the cores is pretty wild.
Yeah, agreed. It is also an RGB board, so it is going to add up to the lighting. It's got some great lighting down on that lower heat sinks. The Steel Legend name obviously lights up, and we've got some behind the board on that underneath that Southbridge heat sink, which is cool. And yeah, there's just lots of things I'm impressed with. Also, their USB 3.2 Gen 2s are 20 gigs per second speed, which to me is
wild.
just wild.
Yeah.
To think that anything can be that fast. You know, but it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster. So let's jump over to this processor. This is an AMD Ryzen 7 7700X desktop processor. The X obviously means this can be overclocked, so you've got some wiggle room there. Let's talk about the cores and that frequency.
Yeah, so this is an 8-core processor using AMD's multi-threading technology. So we've got 8 cores and 16 threads. The base speed for this is 4.5 gigahertz with the boost clock going up to 5.4.
That's huge.
That is.
That's also, and having your base clock starting at 4.5, I feel like a lot of processors, people feel like, hey, we're lucky if we can even get that on a boost, and this is where it starts at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is very, very fast processor.
I did notice the L3 cache on this is a whopping 32 megs, which is great. This is a newer processor. It came out at the end of September of this year, so.
Yeah, I think when for that launch, I think we did a 7950X build. For that new Ryzen. So this is the first 7700X that I've personally been a part of. I know we've seen quite a few come through here, but
yeah. Whoops. And of course, for anybody who's watching, if you see that link that's being put into the chat, exclamation scared, we are giving away a PC that we built here on stream. And if you'd like to know more, just click on that link and see if you can make yourself a winner, because honestly, it's totally worth it. That computer is incredible.
yeah,
Absolutely
it looks
incredible.
great. Yeah, that was the first time we did that print design, which I believe is available now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it went available today, actually. You can see that system in the background here on certain shots. We've got it set up, so.
Nice. Awesome. That's good stuff right there. And in case we have anybody wondering the difference between obviously multi-threading and hyper-threading, let's just go ahead and throw that out there as well.
Yeah, so multi-threading is going to be AMD's version and hyper-threading is Intel's. There might be some fancy technical differences there that I'm not aware of, but for me, it's the core can have 2 threads.
Perfect. Awesome. If you're watching this and you've got questions about just PC building in general, or any questions about what you're seeing happen on the screen, throw it in the chat. That's what we're here for, is to answer your questions. And it doesn't necessarily have to pertain specifically to the build that we're creating at the moment. So yeah, these guys are the experts. Definitely now is the time to pop your questions in and say hello. All right, now the obviously we've got the case going in. This is 011 Leon Lee. Lots of ports on it. Let's talk about the actual ports built into the case.
Yeah, so on the front we've got 4 USB ports and then 1 Type-C, and then we've got our mic and audio up there as well. We've got power button, reset button, and a couple other buttons for the RGB and stuff like that.
Perfect. As you can see, Christian's over there connecting the board, getting it all set up. He's already got it screwed in. I like the balance between the dark and the light on that board. It's got a good look to it.
Yeah, it's,
right?
yeah, it's a good contrast.
Truck and Daddy just mentioned the same thing. Yeah, the camo on that board is really, it's actually cool to look at. I like it.
It is, yeah. That's a sign of the Steel Legend. So if you see an ASRock board, that's a Steel Legend. That's like the scheme that they use for Steel Legend, which is pretty cool.
It's a good thing. I dig it. Obviously, this case has got a lot of function, a lot of versatility to it. We've got panels in the back that you can remove to add more fans to it. We've got the magnetic filters. How do these filters help, and where are they located on this case?
Yeah, so any opening here is going to have a filter on it. That's one of the many reasons we do like this case. So these are just magnetic filters that go over the opening. So I'll grab the one from the top panel here and show you. So this is it right here. All you got to do is just throw it on there. Once you get the fans, I'll stay out of Christian's way. No, you're fine. And you can just you can pull the panel off, pop these off, wipe them down, rinse them off, whatever you need to do, and just put them back on there. So there's one for the top. There's 2 openings on the back that you'll have 2 of these, one for each opening. And then there's one in a tray at the bottom here.
And that's really cool because the feet on the 011 kind of they create a nice airflow space, so you've got room for the air to come in. Just as a reminder, if you have a case, please make sure to not place it directly on carpet for a couple different reasons. 1, static electric discharge. 2, carpet, especially shag, will get up and press against that airflow and reduce the amount of air you can pull into it. Paul, what are some great options for keeping your PC off the carpet? Because let's be honest, not everybody has a giant desk to put things on.
Yeah, so what I use at home personally in my basement that is carpeted, I cut out like a rectangle of cardboard and I put that on the carpet and then set my PC on top of it. If you've got a piece of wood or just something solid that's going to push down and leave a gap in there for air to be sucked in, that'll work. So
awesome. We got a question coming in from Receptor. He says, but aren't magnets near PC memory parts bad news?
That is a great question, and hello, Receptor. Appreciate you asking that. So back in the day, yes, that was a big deal, and the reason why was because most memory storage on the components was stored magnetically. So if you put a magnet on a hard drive, it would erase the memory off there. Now, all the components that the magnets are going to be close to here are not magnetic. They have an actual memory chip, which is like the solid state technology, same thing that's in like your USB drive. That's why you can set a magnet on top of your USB drive and it doesn't erase anything. So this is safe to do.
That was an excellent question, because I honestly didn't know the answer to that either.
Yeah, so this does have a hard drive in it. So we wouldn't want to stick a magnet on this, but the magnets won't be anywhere near this or strong enough to take the memory off of. So
interesting. And Receptors mentioned a flat tile from a Home Depot or something, and I agree. I have 4 ceramic tiles underneath the feet of each of my PCs, just because they're completely they're non-conductive. Yeah, this gives us the terminology for it. But I happen to have extra tiles sitting around. I just put it on ceramic tile.
Yeah, extra tile is a great base. Yeah, I mean that's probably, if you're gonna put anything under it, that might be the best thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely, Receptor. All right, so now we've got the fans going in. Obviously, these are RGB fans, and I believe that these are from. Oh, these are CLX RGBs.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yep. So
tell us a little bit
Christian
about these
has
fans.
Yeah, Christian's got these installed in the bottom tray here. So these are going to be our intake fans. It's another thing about this case we like is this whole tray here comes out of the case, and then we can put the fans onto the tray and then just slap the tray back in there.
So it just slides into place.
Yep, that's it. You just put one end in and push these tabs in, and that's it.
That's got to make it a lot easier in case a fan goes bad or something, or you lose, or you throw a bearing. To just be able to slide it back out, replace it, and slide it back in with little to no hassle.
Yeah, for sure. It makes installing them really easy, and if you got to do anything to fix them, easy as well.
It's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So as far as fans go in this, we're going to have the 3 on the bottom. Where are the rest of the fans going to go?
Yeah, so we've got 7 total. So yeah, 3 in the bottom that you can see now, and then we're going to have 3 in the top that are going to be mounted to the radiator and exhausting out the top of the case, and then we'll have 1 in the rear of the case for another exhaust. So we'll have 3 intakes and 4 exhausts.
Nice. As we're going through this, obviously, let's talk about those hard drives real quick. We mentioned it kind of a little bit earlier. As far as the operating system drive, it is a 2 terabyte NVMe M.2. It is a Seagate Firecuda 520. This is obviously, as I mentioned, I've never heard of a Firecuda before, but it is an M.2, so obviously it's going to be as fast as possible.
Right, yeah, the speeds on these M.2 with their NVMe is just insane on how fast they are, really. I remember going from like a 2.5 inch, just back when solid states were first coming out, going to that from a mechanical hard drive, where it would take literal minutes for once you press the power button for when you could use your computer.
Yeah.
And then you got to an SSD and it was like, oh, this is seconds. This is wild. And then the M.2s came out to replace the 2.5 inches, and it was even faster. So, yeah, it's nuts. I always have my computer off now because it boots up so quick. You don't have to like leave it on or put it to sleep or whatever.
Yeah, agreed. Let's see here. The Firecuda 520 is. Let's see here.
Nice trucking daddy.
Sequential.
Cool.
The sequential read-write goes up to 3,450 megabits per second.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's incredible. So that, of course, is going to be the operating system drive plugged in directly to the motherboard on the motherboard. And then for the storage drive, the secondary drive, we've got a 2 terabyte, 3.5 inch Seagate Barracuda hard disk drive. Now, I've heard things like there's terminologies that I've heard used, especially with the Barracudas, because there's several different versions. There's the hard disk drive, hybrid hard disk drives, and then the solid states. What are the difference between those 3 items?
Yeah, so our solid state is going to refer to anything that doesn't have moving parts, hence the word solid state. So a solid state can refer to a 2.5 inch, an M.2, anything like that. So that's kind of some terminology that always gets mixed up. When people think solid state, they might think 2.5 inch, since you're not specifically referring to an M.2, but it is both. And that just refers to, like I said, no moving parts in there. Then you have, your hard drives, which do have your moving parts, spinning platters that look kind of like CDs, a little bit thicker and smaller. And it'll have trays of those that spin around, and that's why it's a mechanical drive, because it mechanically spins and reads data that way. Then you have your hybrid drives, like you mentioned, which is like a mechanical drive with some solid state storage in it. So it'll look like this. It'll look like a hard drive, and it'll have, maybe 100 gigs, 500 gigs, whatever the amount is of solid state space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for that educational description.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always wondered. I have a 2 terabyte hybrid drive in my streaming PC, that I use as my data drive. And it's And as far as what you said about the M.2s, I remember when my hard drive, my solid state went out, and I put everything on the M.2 on the board. Not only do I get faster load speeds, but I get a higher FPS rate.
Oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
Like the difference in the performance was obvious.
Yeah,
it was wild. And you can get M.2s all the way up to what, 4 or 8? No, 4 terabytes, I think.
Yeah, I think 4 is the biggest that we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So let's right now, let's talk about what Christian's doing right now. He's putting together the AIO. It is an all-in-one liquid cooler by Phanteks. It's a Phanteks Glacier 1. It is the black edition. So let's talk a little bit about the AIOs and the difference between the closed and open loop systems, and just in case there's anybody here who doesn't know what those are and how they work.
Yeah, so like you said, this is an AIO, which stands for all-in-one. That means everything about this liquid cooler is right here, comes ready out of the box. We don't have to add any fluid to it or anything like that. We won't be opening it up. That's also why we call it a closed loop. On the other side of that, there's the open loop systems, which we also do as well. And those are systems where we have custom tubes bent that we bend ourselves, or people use soft tubing sometimes. And that's where, you'll see all the clear lines in the system, and we'll actually install a radiator, install sometimes a distro plate that we fill up with fluid there. So it's open loop because we do open it up and add the fluid itself.
Awesome. And this does a great job. Thank you, C. White. This does a great job of cooling it better than, on the average, better than a fan, although fan coolers have advanced and evolved over time.
Yeah, the air coolers have gotten a lot better than what they used to be. So if someone wants to stay away from liquid cooling, there are a lot of good options out there. There's some, if you spend some money on one, you could even get one that might cool better than a 120 mil AIO. It just depends on which one you go with. So.
They mentioned 120. There are other sizes.
Yeah.
What are they?
So 120 all-in-ones are referred to with those numbers 120, 240, 360, referring to how many fans can be on it. So a 120 can have one 120 mil fan on it, 242, and a 360 like we're using here can have 3 120 mil fans. There are 140 liquid coolers, 280, and whatever 280 plus 140 is for the triple one, using 140 mil fans. Yeah, it's 4 something.
400. It's like 410,
if I want to
420.
do the math, yeah. So
to be honest, math is not my strong suit.
Same. Those exist, but I haven't seen an AIO like that in a long time. For our open loop systems, we do see we see what 480s and stuff like that. We've seen them where it's like 2 stacks of 140 mil fans. They get pretty crazy, but yeah.
Now, there are 2 ways of mounting, well, technically there's 3 ways of mounting fans to your AIO.
Right, yeah. So how we're doing it here is we're going to have the fans pushing air through the radiator. That is the optimal way to do it. So if you are, if you're installing an AIO, you want to have your fans pushing air through it. If we had the fans on the other side of the radiator, that would be pulling air through it. So that'd be the pull method. And then you can also do a push-pull, which is having fans on both sides of the radiator, where you're pushing air through and pulling air through. So yeah.
Gotcha. I'm excited for us to finally be able to do a push-pull. I know that there is one coming eventually.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too.
As far as the RAM goes, we mentioned we've got some pretty high-end RAM here. It's 2 8-gig sticks, a total of 16 gigs of DDR5-5200 Kingston RAM.
Mm-hmm.
Now, DDR5 can come... I think the highest I've ever seen is a 6,000.
Yeah, I think that's the highest I've seen. They will come out with higher speeds. I don't know what the cap is. If you look at motherboard specs, you'll probably see a motherboard saying, oh, this can handle speeds up to 7200 or something like that. And then that's probably the cap on DDR5. I don't know if that's the exact number, but typically when the new generation of memory comes out, it takes a while for them to get those higher speeds.
Well, like in the X670E Steel Legend motherboard we've got here, says it can support up to 6600 plus overclocking,
Okay,
which
yeah.
is wild.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Now, in reference to overclocking, obviously, when you're ordering something off our website, you can choose to have your equipment overclocked. When you're overclocking the CPU, does that also affect, like, does that also something that you do there in house for the RAM, or is that a completely separate item element?
So the RAM is a separate thing. Typically, we don't overclock memory because you can run in. There's a lot that can go just kind of weird with memory with different timings and stuff like that. So you can. We usually don't though. Like you could take.
Okay.
So for this RAM, this is 5200. I don't know. I forget what base DDR5 is, but it's probably like 5000 or something like that. Or for like, I'll use DDR4 as an example because I know that a little better. So DDR4, like the base speed is 2133, but what we're seeing a lot here is that we're using 3200 speed DDR4. So technically that is an overclock from the original 2133, it's just coming from the factory already that way. But you could buy 2133 memory and overclock that up to 3200 or whatever you need to. It's just not as common.
Oh, wow. So apparently the initial DDR5 DIMMs apparently initially delivers 4.8 gigatransfers, but scale up to 8.4.
Okay, so that might be 4800 speed up to 8400 maybe is what I'm hearing.
Apparently. Now, I know this is probably getting way too deep into the tech side of it, but gigatransfers, is that just talking about data passing back and forth?
Yeah, that's going to be like each single piece of data. So when we're talking like 5200 megahertz, that's obviously, if you move the decimal point, I don't know what, suffix you get there, prefix you get there, but yeah.
That's a lot. That is a lot to have there.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Interesting. Very interesting. And of course, that's going to be, teaming up when you've got a processor that's got, L2 cache like this Ryzen 7 has 32 megs of an L2 cache with balancing back and forth between that RAM. That's a lot of things that processor can do.
Yeah, it is. It really is. The amount they can do now and the speeds are just wild to me. I mean, I think when I started, it was like DDR3 was the new thing, and I think DDR3's base was 1333 megahertz. So
yeah,
this is 5200. So what? I mean, you're roughly 5 times faster.
Yep. Yeah, that's wild. That's wicked. Speaking of things that are faster, obviously we've got great transfer rates with this board, as we mentioned. We'll talk about where that hard drive goes in the case in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about that big boy that's sitting right next to you. It is, and this is our first time using one here, it is an AMD Radeon RX 6900 XT graphics. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about these. We've never installed one, at least not on the show.
Right. Yeah, I haven't. It's been a while since I've done a Radeon card as well. So yeah, this is the 6900 XT, which is pretty close to the top of the line for Radeon cards go. If I had to compare it to another card or like an equivalency, it's about like a 3080.
Okay.
Very nice card. I think this customer is a pretty big fan of Team Red going with AMD CPU
right.
and GPU. So that's cool to see. It's nice.
Interesting. I do know that one of the features this thing has is an extended vapor chamber for maximum performance. I'm assuming that has something to do with the airflow.
Right, yep, that is referring to the heat sink and the heat solution on this. So let me try to get it here. So you can see the fins there and the heat pipes as well.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Running out. I'm pulling this plastic off right now, and you can see the PCB stops right here, and then we've got this backplate on our PCB as well, and then our cooler sticks out a little further so that heat will come this way and air will flow through this top fan right here will flow through that as well.
Wow. So much goes into these. It's interesting. Now, you mentioned that when it comes to base design graphic cards, as far as their physical structures are generally pretty identical.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you show us a little bit about what you mean by that? 'Cause I think we have a 1050 there that would be a good example as to what that is. Because I'll be honest, I was shocked and blown away when I saw you pull this apart the first time.
Yeah, it is wild to see what a GPU looks like when you take off the heat shield or the heat spreaders, the fans, and everything like that. They obviously are a big component, just size-wise. I mean, you can see the size of the 6900 XT here, very large, you know, looks pretty beefy, but really it's just the length of the PCB. So I've got a broken, out of warranty 1050 Ti here that we've been using as a good example. So I'm gonna pull this cooler off and show you what a GPU actually looks like minus the heat spreaders.
Right on. Yeah, because when you think about processors, and laptops have, graphics cards hardwired into the board, and you don't see them with giant heat spreaders like these, but they do have a similar performance. And I guess it should have made sense that the fact that the die is so small. There's so much going on inside of it.
Yeah.
All right, he's getting the screws off of
Sorry,
that one, and then
sure I had the right
screwdriver.
Yeah, there we go. Alrighty. So I've got the screws off of the GPU that's holding it to this. Don't do this to a good working card that's within warranty, because this will break your warranty.
Do not try this at home.
So this is going to come off. Most GPUs have fans on them, so there's going to be a power connector as well. So I'm going to unplug that right here. Just a little 2-pin cable there. And this is your GPU here. So you can see where that thermal paste is right there by my finger. That's the actual chip that's running it. And then you can see these memory chips. We've got 4 here. Each one of those on this card is 1 gig of storage. So this is a 4 gigabyte VRAM storage card, and it is just this. I mean, it's like paper thin,
Yeah.
And this is your whole GPU. So this big 6900 XT that I have right here is just like this. Now the PCB is a little bit longer, but it's the same width, just with a bigger cooler on it. So, yeah.
Interesting. Super cool.
Yeah. We could
So-
just
right.
install this and plug it in, and it might turn on for a second, but it would get way too hot and then shut off.
Real fast.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Especially, I love the way that the cooling systems happen for graphics cards. It's one of those things where I'm like, I would have never guessed in a million years if that's how they work. But it's super cool. Let's see here, the AMD Radeon, and it is Radeon, not Radeon. I think I've called it Radeon for ever, and then discovered once we started the show it's Radeon. Yeah. Now, it is an XT, which means it is overclockable, much like the AMD processor that we're installing in that motherboard. As far as its features, what can you tell me about this that sets it apart from other graphics cards in this range?
Yeah, so this has 16 gigs of RAM, like you mentioned, which is nice. This does have 1 HDMI and 3 DisplayPort connections, which is nice. We always like seeing those display ports. And one of the big differences between Radeon and NVIDIA is the way the drivers are done. So with this, you just have one program that all your drivers are on, and it will update that way. Whereas with NVIDIA, there's a separate control panel for that, and then there's GeForce Experience. So that's one of the big differences. Other than that, as far as performance goes, I mean, Radeon cards are, typically better in a 1080 1440p situation, whereas the NVIDIA cards with their ray tracing now are kind of better in 4K. But really, there's a lot of data out there, so this is going to run great. Just find out what games you want to play, and find a card that can do that well.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I'm reading here about the GPU memory that I find interesting. Obviously, GDDR6. And it's got 16 gigs of memory, like you mentioned. Its memory speed is 16 gigs per second, which is awesome. But it has something called an infinity cache. That infinity cache is 128 megs. What does that mean?
So I'm not exactly sure what the infinity part of that means, but that cache is kind of like the L1, 2, and 3 cache on a processor. A GPU is a lot like a processor. You know, like that chip I showed you, that's exactly what a processor looks like if we pulled that gray heat shield off of. So the more that there is of that, the more data can be stored on there and prepped for the GPU to process. So essentially, the higher that is, you know, the better your GPU is going to run.
Gotcha. Cool.
Your GPU is honestly almost like a little computer in and of itself.
Yeah. It's its own little environment.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously this is going to be thanks. Well, you know, there's tons of things that I don't know, and I've, you know, become comfortable being a novice at all of this, which is great. Obviously this works. It's part of the 6000 series family, so I think it's the high end of the 6000 series family.
Yeah. So something I mentioned too, Ryzen is Radeon is coming out with their new cards, their 7000 series in December. So look out for those. I'm sure we'll have a build of that. You know, oh,
I can't wait. That'll be fun.
We'll see, but
honestly, that'll be
we'll
great.
Get one in here, yeah.
Again, two things that you can get on your when you're getting your performance going for your system. You can choose to have CLX techs like these two wonderful gentlemen here overclock your system. They have the options of overclocking a CPU, a GPU, or both. You can get that in there along with choosing whether or not you want to upgrade your thermal paste to the CLX flux paste. Upgrading has got its advantages. What are some of the advantages of choosing one of those three or all of those three items?
Yeah, so having us overclock it is great because you'll still be under warranty. So that's probably the biggest thing about us overclocking it. And when we set that overclock, it's obviously going to perform better than it would if it wasn't overclocked. But we're also going to stress test the system for 12 hours. We do that with every system, whether it's overclocked or not. But that allows us to establish a stable clock and then make sure that it's going to perform like it should for you. So.
And by stress test, I mean I take it you mean doing something other than just yelling at it.
Yeah,
that's my stress test. Yeah. Somebody yells at me until I break down, and I'm like, all right, I can last this long.
Right.
It's like boot camp, but terrible.
Yeah.
So, tell me how do you guys stress test the systems?
Yeah, so we have a few different software programs that we run. 3D Mark, FurMark, Prime 95. Those are all good programs that are recognized in our industry for that. It just kind of depends on the configuration. Prime 95 more is a CPU based one. So 3D Mark is the main one that we use. We get a 3D Mark score for every system that you can see to make sure it's performing right. And what that is it makes the GPU run at max. And then we do that for 12 hours. And if something's going to break, it's most likely going to be within that first 12 hours of operating at a high speed. And so if it's going to break, it will, and then we can fix it here. That way you get a stable system.
Which is what's already been done to the incredible PC giveaway that we've taught in the back behind you, which is great. Of course, if you want to get involved in that giveaway, make sure you're typing !Scarab in the chat. Keep your eyes out. Ivory may be dropping little keys, little codes to get you extra entries into that system.
Oh, sorry, DJ. We'll be able to show that one in just a sec. We got a camera on it now, so. Sorry.
Oh, sweet.
Go ahead.
Awesome.
I wasn't trying to cut you off. Just there you go.
No worries. But yeah, I was just trying to plug it real quick, and there's lots of codes going out that you'll want to make sure you're using. While we're looking here at the side, you can see Christian is getting started on the incredible task. There's the PC. There it is. Look at that. That blue is just wicked.
Yeah, it looks
absolutely
great.
Wicked.
Yeah, that system looks good. And if you want to see how that one was built, we did that a few weeks ago. So you can check out on YouTube, or it might still be on Twitch as well.
Yep, and all of our stuff is pushed to YouTube. So it's finally produced. Yeah, that's a fun little build right there.
Yeah, that was really cool. All of us here were really thrilled to see the print design on that one.
Yep. Well, and to see how it lights up in the background, it looks like clouds. It's like a night sky right there as we look at the side.
Yeah, it does. You're right. Yeah, like some werewolves are gonna come out or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Call it the Lycan build.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I liking what you're building there.
Hey.
Darn it, I know. So as far as the cable management we see Christian going through and doing right here, Christian, what are some great tips and tricks for ensuring your build is being your
I don't know if Twitch can hear
your
me.
cable management is going in correctly?
So I'll take this question for Christian. He's tying up this right now. So how he does it and how I do it are pretty similar, honestly. So what he's doing, and he's breaking this tie up into segments. So he's starting at his top left because that's where his front panel wires are for his audio and USB. And he's making those, essentially bundling those together and trying to make them all one piece, running them down and then over to the middle of the case, which on this case is where all the cable management's done. So he's going to get those managed to a point where he's ready, and then he's already got his fans managed, which is probably the most difficult part of a tie-up, honestly. So he's got that taken care of. Then he'll plug in, or I guess you've already got everything plugged in, and then we'll manage those, and then put the power supply in with those cables, manage those, and then we're good to go. So really it's breaking it down into segments is the big thing.
Big key piece of advice that we always encourage: if you do have to take apart your system and either upgrade something or replace an item, make sure that you take a picture of how everything is bundled together, because that makes it easier to get everything back in the way that it went. Having an efficient cable management system means you've got better airflow in your PC, which is always important because you want to make sure you're keeping all the devices in there as cool as possible to get the best performance. As far as our, right, he's out here speedrunning. He's just going fast today. It's great. As far as our power supply for this unit, which is, it's a great one. It is a 850 watt Thermaltake, and it's, I believe it's the Smart Pro, right?
Correct. Yep, it is a Smart Pro RGB.
Cool. So tell us a little bit about this and why this is a great choice for this PC.
So yeah, so this is a fully modular power supply, which you've seen us do a lot here. There's fully modular, semi-modular, and non-modular power supplies. And what that refers to is how the cables are connected. So this has no cables pre-soldered in, so that hence the fully modular name. So we're gonna grab only the cables that we need for the system, and they'll plug in here to the power supply and then into our system. If we had a semi-modular, that means that some of the cables are pre-soldered in, usually your motherboard 24-pin, CPU, and maybe a video card cable, and then you plug in the rest. And then there's non-modular at all, where all the cables are soldered into the power supply, and the ones you don't use, you have to tie up. So big advantage to these modular power supplies. It makes your tie-up a lot easier, a lot cleaner, looks better, and then there's obviously less cables in your system obstructing airflow and just having to deal with. So if you can go with a fully modular, definitely do it. That's a big recommendation I have. If you are trying to, you know, cut the budget down and save some money, it is where you can save some money. You can still get a fully modular, you know, 850 watt bronze. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned the 80 plus or 850 plus bronze. What does that mean?
Yeah, so this has an 80 plus bronze. That refers to the efficiency rating of the power supply. You have 80 plus just standard, then 80 plus bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and titanium. So that refers to how much power that's being pulled out of the wall versus how much power your system's using. To get an 80 plus rating, it has to be 80% efficient at 20%, 50%, and 100% load. So as soon as you go up from the base, like this one is, you know, one step up from an 80 plus base, it's the bronze, it's going to perform even better than 80% at those three loads. So, you know, 82 to 84 probably on those loads, with going up to silver even higher and gold even higher and so on.
Wow, that's so much. Honestly, that's so much to remember, but also it's a lot of great information. And I just want to bring this to people's attention. So one of the best things about CLX Gaming is our website. At clxgaming.com, we give you all the tools to figure out how you want to build your system so that it's right for you. You don't necessarily have to have all of the information, but that's okay, because we have a conflict resolution system built in. Whether you're a novice or an expert, you can choose the core components that go into your system and design it from the ground up. In the event that you choose something that's not necessarily compatible, don't worry. Our system will let you know exactly what you need to do to solve the problem and how to fix it, which is great. Whether you're a content creator, a producer, a designer, whether you're a professional gamer. All of these different things require a very specific style of PC, and you can make those all right here at clxgaming.com. But if you're not looking to build your own PC, don't worry. We have ready-to-ship models available right now in multiple different configurations, and they're all set just for you. We have laptops, accessories, peripherals. We even carry a gaming chair. So for all of your needs for PCs, to get the right upgrade that's going to meet your needs, head on over to clxgaming.com. Blam. It did it. I did the thing. There we go. I definitely did not sleep with my window open anymore because it's getting way too cold out there. Can I ask, like, I don't how is because you're in Kansas, right? So, did it skip fall?
No, I feel like we got a pretty good fall. We usually skip it. I feel like we got about a month, 2 months of.
I guess, that's.
I mean, that's pretty good.
That's good.
12 months of a year. Like, I base it off how many times when we were in the warehouse and had the doors open and it felt good. And it felt like we probably had like 2 to 3 months of that. Today, we had snow on the ground this morning. So,
good grief.
So that's fun.
We were in the 70s, up in the 70s until I want to say the end of October. And then all of a sudden it went from 60s, high 60s, low to mid 70s to 35 degrees.
Oh.
Not cold enough to snow, but it just went. I swear, fall was here for 3.5 minutes and was like, "Hey, guess what? I'm on vacation this year. Peace. I'm out."
Dang.
I was like, "What? What is happening?" So you already have snow, which is great. It's gonna get cold there.
Yeah.
And
yeah. It's not like, it wasn't even like freezing. Kansas is crazy. The weather here is nuts. You definitely get all 4 seasons, and then sometimes you get them all in the same month. So, like, April is the month. Like, most of my family's birthdays are in April, and sometimes it'll be sunny and nice out, and it'll be raining, and sometimes it'll snow.
Since we have he moved it again. Darn.
Sorry, Christian. That's my fault.
You're good. I was just gonna point out the panels on the back. One of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of where everything is at. Anybody who's noticed the O11s, one of the best pieces of the design for the O11s, the O11 case, is where the motherboard sits. It doesn't sit completely against the back of the frame. It's actually mounted about 1/3 of the way forward, which gives a great ability not only for, I would say, better ways of managing the heat from different elements, but it also has 2 incredibly useful bays on the back. Paul, let's talk about those and what we've got on that back section.
Yeah, so if we can actually go back to that front shot, Jason. So this is a great shot for this. So you can see where my hand is here. This is our motherboard tray. You can kind of see the back of it in between there. So like you said, it is kind of set in, about 1/3 of the way in, which allows us to install the power supply here inside the case on the back side. So all the fan will suck in air through this side and exhaust out the back. So none of the heat from the power supply is going to get into the case. This also allows us for these 2 bays up here. These are for our hard drives, or our 2.5-inch drives if we had those. Each one of these has 2 bays in there, so this can have a total of 4 extra hard drives. And what's really nice about these is these have these cables already running out, and we've plugged those into the motherboard, the SATA data and SATA power, and the SATA powers will plug into our power supply, so that you can just we'll be able to just install this hard drive into the tray, and it will slide in and connect automatically. So you won't have to plug in any cables or anything like that.
That is still like up there in that top 10 genius things about these cases that I absolutely love.
It is. It really is.
It's smart, and it's smart in the sense that it makes you wonder, how come nobody thought about this before? Like, this would have been so much easier in so many different cases. But yeah, that's one of the things I love about these cases. I see why so many people go with this case. It's great.
Yeah, we've been looking for an Evolve X to build. We haven't built an Evolve X in a long time, but these O11s are just so good.
They're flying out the door.
So, yeah.
Just flying. I'm loving the look of this. You've got that matching white of the fans on top of that motherboard that's got that incredible white and gray and silver design to it. I think it's going to look really good once it's lit up.
Yeah, I think so too. There's some nice contrast in there, and yeah, it'll look really good.
Excellent. All right. So, Christian, where are we at on those cables?
Yeah, so right now I'm tidying up my fan cables. I got my CPU cable in here. Once I get this all done, I will start getting the 24 pin and VGA cables, get the video card and hard drive installed, and should be good to go.
Cool. Speaking of that video card, let's talk about size comparisons to, say, the physical size compared to, say, is it more along the lines of the 3090 or is it more along the lines of the 4090 in size?
Probably more along the lines of a 3090 and honestly a little bit smaller. So width-wise or length-wise, it's probably about the same. But vertically, width, I guess I would call this the width of it. It is smaller, which I like. This is technically a 2.5 slot card. That refers to how many of the back slots it's going to take up. You can easily count here on these tabs. So 1, 2, and then our fan shroud sticks out about a half. So this would be a 2.5 slot card. Whereas those 3090s, 4090s, I mean, they're like 3.5 minimum. Probably somewhere even up to 4.
So are you still going to be able to use the graphics card holder that came with the ASRock motherboard?
We would be able to use it, but for this build, we're not going to have to. Since this card is lightweight enough and not as thick, we won't have that in there.
Cool. Which is great. I mean, obviously, the end mount is screwed in, so you've got your plating already set in there in the back of it with the plate covers, once the plate covers are removed. So that is going to leave a lot of access for the other PCIe ports then.
Yeah. The other PCIe ports will be, they will be open and ready to use. So an extra by 16, an extra by 1. So capture card, sound card, anything like that.
I was going to say extra USB ports, but you don't need that with this motherboard.
Yeah, right.
All right. So as far as builds go, I feel like this is a pretty exceptionally powerful build.
This is, yeah. This having the 7700X in there. I'm excited to get this one into testing since I haven't tested too many of those 7700X. Most of the new Ryzen have been 7900 and 7950, which are obviously crazy performance, but it'll be cool to see what this one does.
So one of the cool things about the website that I love is that we have integrated 3D Mark, which is a rating system, into onto your custom design page, so you can see how your build is going to function and what the average performance is going to be. So, for example, for people who play Fortnite at 1080p, this system will be able to push 355 frames per second on the average. At 1440p, it should be able to run 150 FPS, which is truly impressive. You want to go over to Call of Duty Warzone, and we're talking at 1080p, 245 frames per second, which is just incredible. And if you're talking Apex Legends, 140 FPS at 1080 and 1440. So, interesting ways to look it up. Yeah. You know, and I look for games that I like to play, like Rainbow Six Siege. It does not have that on there, but a lot of games. There's a large variety of games to compare to look at. Okay, what is it that I play? What is this similar to? Need some testing with Cyberpunk and Modern Warfare 2. Mighty Endeavor says yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll just play Modern Warfare 2 for 12 hours instead of doing a burn-in. That sounds like a good enough burn-in for me. No, I have resisted buying Modern Warfare 2 so far, but it is right there, and I almost bought it this weekend.
I'll be honest, I got a copy of it gifted to me, and I was very happy about that. The multiplayer is incredible.
I was
Absolutely
watching
incredible.
it. I don't know how I forgot this, but I was like, I'm not going to. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch 2, and that's kind of satisfying the urge. But I was watching it, and then I saw the kill streaks, and I was like, oh, I forgot about kill streaks. I was like, I just want to drop a Predator missile on someone's head. Like, oh, man. So that almost got me. They almost got my money, but I resisted for now.
Yeah.
Overwatch 2 has been pretty fun.
Overwatch 2 has been pretty cool. Yeah, I'm digging Overwatch 2.
I actually I've been instructed that I have to learn that game. I know Wes Wilson's going to help teach me that game because I've never understood Overwatch.
Yeah.
Never. I'm like, you've got a bucket, You've got basically a trailer with a bunch of stuff on it that you're trying to get through the city, and people are trying to shoot you while you're just trying to take your belongings to your storage shed. I don't understand what's happening in that game.
It's like objective-based shooter basically. I'm not like completely sold on it yet. I'm having a lot of fun because the guys I play with are all playing it, and they're pretty good. If they weren't playing it, I would probably have bought Modern Warfare 2 already. But playing with them has been a lot of fun. They're a lot better than I am. So it always felt like a really casual game to me. And I know there's a competitive side to it. And I'm not saying that it's, you know, just a casual game. But for me, it always felt casual. Like I could never get into like wanting to climb the elo system. But I'm kind of getting that now. I'm getting pretty decent with a couple of the characters, so I'm kind of getting that feel. But like with League of Legends, I would sacrifice all my sleep to try to climb the ladder in that, and I haven't gotten that pull playing Overwatch. League of Legends is, dude.
Is brutal.
Yeah, I hate that game, and I have put so many hours into it, and I will continue to put so many hours into it. I still will.
Well, I'm gonna mutilate somebody's name here. It's Vanamisol. Vanim.
Oh, Vanamisol.
Vanamisole. There we go. I'm a terrible person. It says, "What's up, guys? This is tight to see. Yeah, this is gonna be a great build, especially once it gets powered up. It's gonna be awesome. Of course, if you have questions in the chat about anything that you're seeing here, or about PC building in general, please feel free to drop those in the chat. I will do my best to catch up on them and keep an eye out for stuff. But I'm absolutely digging it.
One of he does the custom art on the shoes that look really sick.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
I remember at a DreamHack, I don't even remember which one it was. It might have been Atlanta a few years ago. There was like some Dragon Ball Z ones that were so sick.
I see so many times, like we had shoes from Mixer and all the other things. I always wished I could get them, but I have extra wide feet. They're like flippers. I don't know why. And so finding shoes is a virtual impossibility. It's ridiculous. Xbox 007 says, I hope you guys get to do my build in the show. That would be awesome.
Yeah, what kind of system did you order, Xbox?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Let us know what kind of system you did. Maybe we can look for it. We'll see.
So King Joker says we need to do a Dragon Ball Z build. I mean, we did the.
That would be cool. Yes. That would be really cool.
Yes, we do.
We would all love that.
We did a Pokemon build.
Yeah.
For the winner of a contest, which is cool.
Mew, yeah. I don't play Fortnite, but they put the Dragon Ball Z characters in Fortnite, didn't they? The skins.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, Voc007 says, I hope you guys get to do my build in the show. It's a AMD 7950 with a 4090 with a hardline custom loop.
Ah, okay, yeah. So we have been discussing. I don't want to get too much into it because none of this is for sure yet. But I think that I may have come up with a way for us to do an open loop on the show. I don't know yet. We will see. Those open loops take a lot of time, is the thing. So if I'm trying to find a way that we can have things prepped for the show, a lot of the time out there, and then assemble it all on the show and watch it being filled up, and kind of how we do that. So hopefully we'll see that in the future. I'm sure we'll figure out a way, but yeah.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Z would be amazing. So as far as custom designs and things, we've got a ton at CLX, and if you haven't actually seen them, you should definitely check them out. This time I'm not making Ivory do it. I remembered we put that link in our chat. If you want to check out some of the CLX special editions, these are all the different designed cases that we offer, and there's multiples. It's not just one or two. There are several different options that you can get that are breathtakingly gorgeous. The Sakura edition, which we had at PAX, which was great. There's the Vice and the Raw, like we're building right now, which is the red one. the powder series, which is it's a nice lightweight take on its colors. Plus, there's more. The blue one I don't see in here, but
Soon.
We will get to you soon.
Yeah, I see you, XVOC. Yeah, we're waiting on the 4090 water blocks. Waiting on EK for those.
So you can do, like, I assume you wouldn't do AIOs for a
Open loop.
for a GPU and then one for a CPU. Like, it wouldn't be. How would you even? Is that something that can be done?
So it's not something that we would do. There are GPUs that come with AIOs on them.
Okay.
So, but for an open loop, no. So for this, you can do a CPU loop, a GPU loop, or you can do a CPU and a GPU loop, 2 loops. What we see, one of the most common open loop configs is a CPU loop where you have the monoblock on the CPU, and then your video card is installed just like this one, where it cools on the fans, and the CPU is cool with the open loop. But I'm sure you've got the CPU and GPU loop if you're waiting on the 4090. You've got a very high-end system, so I'm sure you went all out on that. So we always love those builds.
Hopefully we can show that on stream.
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
we just got to figure out the logistics of it. Filming is a different beast when you're talking about bending tubes and stuff.
Yeah. My thought process on it is we'll do just a CPU loop first, without both loops, and have the tubes pre-bent and kind of go from there. But yeah, we'll see how we can get it.
Wow. Yep. Xbox said close to 9K. Well, that sounds about right.
9K, yeah. We are all, trust us, like, once your system gets built, all of us here are just drooling. Like, oh man, that is beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome. As you can see right now from this shot, all of that very clean, very organized rear cable management. Christian's been over there just killing it. Absolutely easy. So, Brian brings up a thing that you could do a 3D printed chassis with carbon fiber inserts.
That would be cool.
Easy Tunes. Oh, hey, it's George. Easy Tunes says CPU open loop and with air-cooled GPU is common for people that tend to update their GPUs every generation, and that's a very good point. Now,
that's
because you'd have to completely
really
redo that end of the loop. Is that the case?
Yeah, the thing is, so like you got to completely drain the system and then do that, and so yeah, that can be that's the most time-consuming part. Obviously, be the draining the system, pulling that off. And then most likely the block on your current card isn't going to fit the new cards. Then you got to get a new block. And then since you got a new block, the fittings might be in a different spot. So you might have to bend your tubes a little differently and so on and so on. So, yeah.
Interesting. Real quick, let's talk about that panel that we just saw Christian mount on the back, covering all of your,
So this is our cable management cover panel here. It just pops in and gives us a really nice, smooth, clean look there. Protects those cables also from getting pinched when we put the other panels on.
Gotcha. So that's always important. You really don't want to pinch your cables. You can sever them, which is going to be a very large problem getting anything to work at that point.
Yeah. All right. Well,
awesome.
We good to slap the panels on.
We've got everything in.
Cool. Speed Racer over here today. I don't know if I've got the plastic.
I was gonna say, like, wow, you just nailed it.
This is the difference when you have 7 fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's no joke.
Yeah.
So, Easy Tunes mentions GPU water block inlet and outlet don't always line up from generation to generation, so it can require you to not just drain the loop, but recut and bend those tubes. That's what I was wondering. It sounds like that would be a lot of effort to do it. So once you get one, make sure you've got the one you're going to keep for a while.
Right. Yep. Buy the 4090 if you're doing it like Vok did.
Yeah, that's a big system. But also, that is a system you won't have to do anything to for a very, very long time. Absolutely incredible glasswork here. Got to get all of the lining off though.
Yep. Leon Lee uses that Gorilla lining too.
Right?
That's strong stuff.
I love how these panels just slide on. Super simple, super easy. Go to the glass panel on the far side, and then there's just a top that holds it all together.
Yep. That's right. This covers up all those areas, making sure I'm not hitting my magnetic filter there.
Yeah.
All right.
Great artwork across the top. Great branding. Okay, get this thing plugged in and final moment of truth.
Yeah, we'll get this set up and let me get a, do we want,
Now we see the power.
the beautiful.
Yep, more giveaway codes, everybody check it out. More
Ooh,
giveaway codes.
Get them while they're hot.
Yes. Okay. Of course, that is for that beautiful blue PC that we saw in the back a little bit earlier in the show. It is breathtaking. If you want to check out our YouTube channel, you can, because you can watch that build being put together live.
I think we're ready.
All right.
Oh.
Moment of truth.
No? One second.
Oh, gotta make sure we're all set up.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you for the follow, kid. Appreciate it.
Hey.
Appreciate you. Welcome, welcome.
Here
All right.
we go.
Oh.
Wow. Gorgeous. Again, I
Beautiful.
love how it lights up the back of the cloud, the flames there.
Yeah, it looks so, man, it really does.
Absolutely looks amazing. Let's once again go over everything inside this raw gaming build. This is built out on an 011 Leon Lee case. It is being powered by an AMD Ryzen 7 7700X octa-core processor. That processor is locked into an ASRock X670E Steel Legend motherboard that's mounted with 16 gigs of DDR5-5200 RAM by Kingston. For the graphics card, we've got the AMD Radeon RX 6900 XT and 16 gigs on that card. The operating system is going to be put on the 2 terabyte Seagate Firecuda 520 NVMe M.2, and of course, everything's being cooled by the Phanteks Glacier 1 AIO liquid cooler, along with 7 different CLX RGB fans. Our storage drive that goes right in the back in that hot swap bay is a 2 terabyte, 3.5-inch Seagate Barracuda hard disk drive. And it's all being run by an 850-watt Thermaltake Smart Pro power supply. This system is going to be coming with Microsoft Windows 11 Home, and because it's a raw, it's going to be coming in a CLX sarcophagus package, along with a 1-year parts and lifetime labor and technical support warranty included with the cost. Absolutely incredible build, gentlemen. Absolutely incredible. Any final thoughts for you?
I'm really excited about this. Ready to get into testing. Like I said, to test that 7700X, and yeah.
Nice. Don't forget, you can still get your entries in for the giveaway. Make sure you follow all the instructions on that. The link, of course, is in the chat if you type !Scarab. We are live every Tuesday starting at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 Eastern. 2 p.m. Eastern here at CLX Gaming TV on Twitch. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, hit us up at CLX Gaming on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. On behalf of Christian and Paul and Jason in production, I'm DJ BluePDX. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you next time right here on Twitch.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Later.
Wait up.
Run and hide. Oh, would that make you run and hide? Don't know what to do anymore. I'm out of options, nothing's working. I'm out of service. Come help me now, I'm fucking nervous. I'm trying but can't scratch the surface. So I keep my mouth shut and not listen. Afraid I lose you if I didn't. Can we find what we're missing and compromise?